he gave me a huge injection to help the numbing, but I swear that didn't do anything.
When pain is at a certain level, it's like
it
maybe like takes the edge off it.
There was a pillow that I cried into while they were doing, and the guy put all his weight and then just.
Welcome to Before the Lights. If you're new here, we're a team of health professionals based in London who train people from all over the creative world to get ready for TV, film, even live shows, but most importantly, for everyday life. I'm Dave Hasty.
I'm George Ashwell.
I'm Georgia Canavan.
And I'm Josh Betteridge.
We've been lucky enough to build a pretty special group of members here at the club, so we thought it would be nice for other people to get to know some of them as well as we do.
I was like, I need to start going to the gym. So I literally got out my laptop, and was like, PTs for actors.
Welcome to Before the Lights podcast, guys. I'm Greg James. With me over here is Dangerous Dave, and here is Evil George. And today we're talking grind set.
Grind set?
It's not about mindset, guys. It's about grind set.
It was the very first time I met you when you came in and you actually had to run off and be sick in the toilet.
You feel quite vulnerable when you're kind of lying on your back with your legs up in the air because you feel sick. Just breathing, and I'm like, this never happens. I'm so sorry.
So sit back, only do some exercise if you want to, and maybe even learn something about how to look after yourself.
Have you ever done one on your own?
No.
No. We wouldn't let him.
No.
He's the only one that could do it on his own.
Right.
I'd be fucking terrible.
On my own, as in
I've heard some of these. You're both natural, to be honest.
But no guest, you mean, on my own?
Just talking to yourself.
Just a monologue.
Just be, just you.
We could do that. We haven't really done a deep dive on me as a person.
Asking yourself questions. Maybe we should switch it. I should start asking you guys.
I might do a bit of that. It might end up that way. We haven't even introduced you yet. You're just talking head.
That's all right. You don't need to do all that.
Well, we should do.
We should
probably introduce you. Today's guest has been a friend of ours for a long time. Although you and I didn't meet in Leeds, but you might be able to tell we sound similar for those listening.
We bumped into each other in London a couple of times.
And then when we met, we realised that we probably grew up like maybe 2 miles away from each other.
Yeah,
like really close.
Yeah.
We did actually. I think one year after watching Leeds at Christmas, we went to the pub in Horsforth. I think.
Yeah.
Me, you, Alex, Johnny.
Yeah, a few of my mates. That was it Boxing Day or something?
It was around that time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was around that time. But essentially, Christian's all his friends in London are people from Leeds.
Yeah, it's great actually. Like all my best pals from school, bar one or two, all moved to London, and we're all still good, best mates since primary school. Like,
that's amazing.
Yeah,
really.
I think it's pretty rare, but yeah, it's good.
And some of them I guess work in this type of industry, but not all.
My brother's an agent and a talent agent, as you guys know. But I do have like actor mates, but I try and avoid them. No, I do I do have actor mates.
You got to keep both. Keep the grounding.
But my core sort of circle are people that aren't in this business and people that have been sort of mates of mine since primary school, even so. Yeah, they've got a lot of dirt on me. Probably.
That's why you got to keep them close.
I still actually haven't said your name.
You should do that.
It's Christian Cooke.
Everybody.
This is the worst intro ever. Just halfway through we go. This is who we're talking to.
A bit of a drum roll for then. Oh right,
Christian Cooke. People will know you from. I don't know how much you'll want to talk about. It's so long ago. It was Love Rosie was when we first met you, because I think you'd met George. And then Josh and I started working in London at the similar kind of time, wasn't it?
You were with United.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure it was... we were working with a bunch of United people.
Yeah, because wasn't like Nick your first actor? It was your mate, obviously.
My mate,
it was your first
but
sort
then,
of
yeah,
actor
so absolutely.
client,
So through Nick, his agents at 42, but also I had a connection to Lindy King and Dallas at United.
Right,
and then... Basically, they started sending all the broke young actors to the broke young physio and trainer, and then luckily both sides of the scale moved up after a while.
Because this would have been probably like 2013.
Yes, I do remember that. Is the first time I met you guys,
which is ages ago now, isn't it? As we record this, it's 2026. That's how the more like this year we seem to be talking about getting old quite a lot.
And it was the first time I'd ever had like sustained personal training, and it was like. It was really, I just remember really, really loving it, but then becoming really insufferable, because I was living in a house with 4 mates, and I remember my best mate Ben was like, you're a fucking nightmare to live with. And I found myself like getting it because I was not eating carbs, right? Like, so I was.
Should we explain like the role a little bit, because it's relevant to kind of the training, wasn't it? Like you had to be topless quite.
Well,
a bit,
I was
wasn't
kind of the other love interest of Lily Collins, and I was sort of had to be topless.
It was like traditional hunky male.
It was traditional, like, rom-com kind of fare,
like young
really.
20-something-year-old getting looking ripped, that kind of thing.
20-something, we'll keep it.
You were 30.
How old? I was maybe 25 or something. I can't really remember.
I'd say that's just on the edge of 20-something. 25.
But I was eating a load of. I remember you guys put me on this crazy protein diet, which I think is probably illegal levels of protein. I think you've probably moderated.
We might have modified it since then. I was 23 at the time and probably giving you some...
I think, knowledge has come on since then. I was eating an ungodly amount of meat. And
what were you going for? What were your choices?
But I don't know. But I remember this is probably wild now. I don't know if this is healthy levels, but I was eating 330 grams of protein a day.
That's a hell of a lot.
Which is a lot. I was having
200 is like for a guy who's like
I'm 80 kilos.
95 kilos. 200 is like the upper limit of what you need. Otherwise, you just pee it out.
Oh right, great. So
that extra 100 grams.
You did say I was talking off record that you were famously pee a lot, so maybe that's what
started getting rid of protein.
Maybe that's why I still pee a lot. It's all the protein that I built up.
We triggered something in you.
No, but I remember I was eating like it was like the equivalent of like 12 chicken breasts a day or whatever, and I was drinking all these shakes. I was having. I swear to God, mate, I was for breakfast. I was having the shake. I was having a shake when I woke up, and then I was eating a box of eggs.
I think you may have misinterpreted some of the advice here.
No, because I just worked out how do I get it in. I was eating not every day, but a lot of days. I swear down, I was eating 12 eggs, 170 grams of smoked salmon.
Not even a 6-box. You're eating 12.
No, not all. I was eating like 8 yolks and then 4 full eggs. But a dozen whites, like.
Did you spend your entire pay packet for the film on eggs and chicken
pretty much. No, but I remember my friend said I became just insufferable, and I was having road rage with people in their cars, and I wasn't even in a car. I was just like crossing the road and shouting at like people in their cars, because you just kind of, it is kind of miserable levels of when you're not eating that much carbohydrate and you're training a lot and you're tired.
What was the amount of time that was given for that? Because sometimes there isn't a lot of time, and that can be. I don't know.
Yeah, it was maybe a couple of months.
This is a long time ago, Dave.
It's like there's
really trying to pull something.
Easier.
It worked. It looked amazing, guys.
Well, that's the thing. It did work.
It did, and it also, from what I remember, and I might get the timelines wrong, you did something where you were a boxer.
Yeah, I was going to talk about that actually. Yeah.
Quite soon after that.
Yeah.
And I think the work we did for that, because then we had to like shift it to get leaner and fitter.
Yeah.
Because you weren't fit. You were just looked strong.
Chill out.
No, but like as in we weren't training.
Get slugged off.
Weren't training for fitness.
Yes.
I mean, famously since then you've become mildly obsessed with training, and you can run a 5K in a ridiculous speed, but.
Yeah, still not as fast as my brother, but I'm not bad at running.
Since that period of time, which is 13 years ago or something now.
Yeah.
You've moved or like progressed in your career to the point, so you're not just acting these days, you're writing and you're directing. And it kind of leads in nicely, because I think I was interested to talk to you about like the shift in your relationship with training. Because obviously when we met you, it was very much like there were short-term goals with very specific outcomes that we needed to achieve, which was achieved, and hopefully I think we can find some
mostly aesthetic,
some pictures of you, because it sounds like you looked amazing.
Well, you're still talking about it, Dave, so I must have done.
I'm just desperate for things to talk about, that's all. But nowadays it's such a shift, and I think A, we're all older, but B, professionally now you're like, recently you've had a film come out which was written, directed, and you acted in it as well.
Yes, yeah.
The demand on you as a person there is totally different.
Yeah.
Do you then find like your relationship with exercise changes in order to be something that's more like regenerative?
Well, interesting. I was like,
restorative.
When I was doing a film for Netflix in America, and we were set to start Embers, which was the film that I wrote and was going to direct in the January, and this was the summer 2018, and I was sort of experimenting with losing lots of weight, because the character that I was going to play did play was in a psychiatric mental institute, and he'd been there for a high security psychiatric institute, and he'd been there for 18 years. And I sort of was like, well, what if he's just like really emaciated? So I wanted to sort of try lose loads of weight with a big lead time so I could test my energy levels.
So remember you came in, it was our like in between when we were on Mortimer Street. I think you came in then, and it was like you'd been working. I remember you'd been talking about this project for quite a while. It took a long time to kind of get to that stage, didn't it?
Was this the one, sorry to interrupt, the one that was the play that you did?
Yeah,
which was amazing.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. It was that, but the sort of story of this sort of weight loss thing is that I didn't end up doing it because I started to lose this weight, and I was testing. I wanted to test my energy levels far enough out away from the shoot, because I was going to be directing it. I didn't want to be. I had to have energy, and so if I was just acting in it, then I was like, I could have probably gotten through with the lack of energy and feeling sort of like shit, really. And I soon realised that actually it wasn't going to work for me, and I couldn't actually get through.
What is the process there? Because like when you act, like we're kind of privy to it when we've worked on sets. There's specific times when you're in. You might have really intense couple of hours, then you can go and chill in the trailer for a bit, work on something. But if you're directing it as well, it's not just your work that you need to be on top of. It's kind of the whole thing, right? Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think I just sort of put my focus. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I think in a sort of weird way, me directing that film helped my performance in it, because I didn't have time for any neuroses. I didn't have time to overthink it, and I was so sort of like concerned and almost to the point of paranoid, right, about Ruth Bradley, who is just one of the greatest actresses around, feeling like she had enough support and feeling like she, because it was essentially, it's a two-hander, but it's from her perspective, and so I just put all my energy onto her. And I said to her as well in scenes, I said, look, if I'm directing this, and I'll be sort of breaking character and giving you notes, watching playback coming up to you, but if you also feel like there's something you're not getting from me, like, this is the two of us, and while we're acting in scenes, we're equals together, so you can just say to me, like, Christian, what about, we're doing this together, essentially. But it was difficult, and I really enjoyed the day. There was a handful of days that I wasn't acting and I was just directing, and those were the most enjoyable days, because naturally you can just focus on that. But yeah, I mean, it's just a lot of prep, making sure that you're really well prepared. And yeah, I think because I'd done the play and I'd sort of worked with I sort of brought a producer in to watch my performance as well, and I would defer to her sometimes, where I'd say, how was that? She'd say, yeah, you've got it, move on. And then I'd maybe check one take on the monitor, they had a handheld monitor that they would run in for me, and I'd look at like the last thing, and occasionally I'd go again, but usually I'd just sort of trust the people around me.
I was going to ask, like, when you step away and you go onto the monitor, it's like there must be the element of like arrogance, ego, or just purely like not wanting to be bad, or whatever, where like when you're watching it, are you watching your performance, or are you trying to look at like the performance of the scene? I think it goes?
No, you're in so when you're covering a scene, obviously there's different shots that you're doing, and we're shooting on a single camera, so you're not shooting every angle at the same time. So I would still give due diligence to my close-ups, to my singles, right? But also I just felt like the character was so different to me. Yeah. It was so different that I kind of felt like I wasn't looking at myself in that way that maybe when you might do a self-tape as an actor, as an audition, and you kind of feel like, I get someone else to sort of say which is the best take, because I can't watch myself. It really did feel like I was not watching myself, but then you can also sort of know when maybe you can do something a little better, or maybe you're too, I don't know, whatever.
And you probably knew that before you'd even watched the playback.
Right, exactly. But shooting on digital as well, you can do rolling takes, which I love to do anyway, and I love it for myself and other actors, because you don't have that inhalation before a take. When you've got celluloid and you can hear you can hear it going through the camera, there is that kind of pressure to get it right, because like 400 foot of film is 10 minutes, and it's like stock is expensive, it's like maybe you're filming in a location where you can't get more stocks suddenly, and but when you're shooting on digital, as long as you've got enough hard drive space, you can keep going. And actually the editors were sort of, my producers actually were saying to me, where we because it was a small budget film, and they were like, we're running out of money to buy hard drives. You've got to start you've got to start cutting, because I just would love to go. And so what I'd often do with myself, sorry, just to finish that, is that I would just go right again from the top, and I'd just stay in it and do it, bang a few out, and then watch like the last one when I felt I'd got it. And then it was really about trusting the editor as well, which is the sort of most fun, arguably as fun, if not more fun than the shoot, providing you've got a film in there to edit. It is very much trusting Mark Richardson, my editor, who has great taste and very much leans towards things that are naturalistic and less performative. And so I would often, and I found myself in the edit referring to myself as Dan, which just happened sort of naturally, and probably to distance myself from it in the edit. But I would often, if there was choosing between two takes, I would just say, "What do you think?"
Yeah.
And he'd be like, "I really like that one." I'd be like, "Fine."
Yeah, makes it a bit easier.
Put that take in. Yeah.
Did you find, like, in that space of time, do you have the opportunity to step away from it and to kind of go for a run or whatever and clear your head?
No,
or is it just completely?
I was the most unhealthy I've ever been on that.
Really?
Yeah, because I was so stressed. I was like, I was sleeping like I was this is really bad, but I'll not advocating this, but I had prescription sleeping pills. I was getting in at 7, 8. Then I was going over my shot list and my plans for the next day. What I had this Bible of which was my plan, basically the way I was going to shoot it, and then every night I would transfer that into a smaller sized book, and I did that purposely day by day to sort of replant it in my mind what I was going to do.
Yeah.
Then I would sit in the bath and order fried chicken. Right.
This is where it gets interesting.
Right. I would literally I would sit in the bath, like order fried chicken on Deliveroo or whatever could, just release some endorphins.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then I would go to bed, and because of I've just got a really overactive brain anyway, but especially when you're doing something like that, I would take a sleeping pill and then I would still wake up at 3:30 in the morning, and then I would be picked up at 5. But then adrenaline gets you through, and by the end of it, I looked grey. Yeah. I was like,
So you got to that emaciated point,
anyway,
in a different way.
Yeah. No, I mean, I remember on the second day, I'm probably gonna seem a bit silly here, but that's fine. I called my girlfriend at the time, and I said. Because it was kind of COVID as well, we ended up, so the film fell apart the first time we tried to make it in 2019, financing. I was so devastated, I put it to one side and I started writing another script, and then it came back around for a few years later, and we shot it at the start of 2022. And so it was like a second wave of COVID or something around Christmas time. And I sort of banned my girlfriend from coming anywhere near me because I didn't want to get COVID, and so I really isolated myself. But I called her on like the day 2 of filming, and I was crying on the phone. I was like, I'm so tired. I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to get to Saturday. Yeah. And it was like day 2 of the whole film. But I realised I just needed to get that out. And then the next day I was like, right, let's go. And I was fine from apart from being tired. That anxiety was because I think when you're putting something together, it took us 8 years. It took me 8 years really. It was 8 years to put it together, pretty much, from having the idea, and then having it fall apart once, and then finally being there. There is just this, and it was my first time making a feature. There's a lot
of moving parts. There's a lot going on, a lot of pressure, isn't there? Do you think then, looking back now, being through that experience, and like it's understandable why you would be so kind of committed to making sure everything was ready, excuse me, for like the next day. Do you think you now would prioritise maybe getting out of that headspace and going for a walk or doing some having a stretch rather than work, bath, fried chicken?
Yeah.
For sure, and I also wouldn't just readily, I have another film in development, and I'm not going to act in that, and it wasn't a sort of thing that I was like, I think that also helps, right? It's like not doing two things and not that I regret doing it. I'm proud of the film, I'm proud of my performance, and I it was sort of something that I felt I wanted to do. And
you only ever learn like how you feel and react to stuff after having done it, really, don't you? So it's kind of like,
and also, to be honest, on films of that scale, it's a 3-week shoot, so for me, I was like, I'm going to do whatever I want to do to feel good at the time.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah, yeah.
in that film, that was eating fried chicken at night, chain smoking cigarettes, and drinking coffee during the day.
And if it is a period of like a few weeks,
yeah,
it's
can
in
recover
the,
from
in
that
the,
very
in the grand
easily.
scheme of things, and something we're going to talk about anyway, is like you have been and are a kind of active, fit and healthy person.
Yeah.
So by having like 3 weeks, and we talk about this quite a bit in the gym with people, by having 3 weeks or whatever, even a month or longer, where you deviate from what is like your norm, people get really concerned about, oh, is that going to ruin everything? But the truth is, like, no. It's like you're not, as an actor, because you haven't acted in 3 weeks, you're not going to forget everything.
No,
or
of
the
course.
same with writing. It's like it might sort of take a second to get back into
and
it.
also,
but
to be honest, in the days I was eating fairly well, and I was always on my feet, so I wasn't like just sat there drinking 12 cans of full fat Coke sat at the monitor.
you're probably just running on like the stress and the
and I
adrenaline
think,
of it, and just kind of go,
isn't
go,
it
go.
some sort of crazy fact that the sort of brain burns like 25% of the body's
Oh, it's
calories
mental.
or something?
It's mental.
I just think that alone, right? Because actually on other jobs, on other just sort of acting gigs that I've been doing, now I'm a lot more conscious of what I eat, just because it's just better to live like that, and we're getting older and all that. But when I was young, I would be over at the table eating all the biscuits and eating the cakes that came out and the sandwiches at 4, and you'd never put on any weight because you're on all the time, right? Which is but that'll change. I'm 38, so I'm sure that's going to change.
Did you find that obviously with Embers it was so intense and you were so involved in it, and then the nature of this industry that when a project comes to the end, you have then quite often an extended period of like without work. Was that a bit of a challenge for you in that sense of going from like go? It sounds like you might need a break anyway, but then often people feel not like lost, but like the routine is gone all of a sudden, and like then does your training kind of fill that void a little bit? If it gives you like, right, I'll do this on this day, and then other bits of work sliding around it.
It was a really weird time because I'll talk about it. My manager died on the last day of filming Embers. Someone that I was Chris Huvain, his name's tattooed on me, and he was a really good friend of mine, and I found out on the last day of filming, and I just managed to get through that last day just because I had to, and then I was like absolutely devastated and flew to LA for his memorial like a few days after. In fact, I had a holiday booked to Mexico with my girlfriend. I went there, and then from Mexico went to LA. So I was in this weird state of like being exhausted from that, having this film in the can that I needed to go and edit, having just lost Chris. And so it was a really weird time in general anyway. So I think that's kind of like that it made it, when people talk about when sort of they're, not that I ever hit depression, full sort of depression. I was grieving, but I wasn't sort of depressed for a sustained period of time. But people talk about not being able to train because they don't have that motivation because of mental health. Well, it was I really understood that for the first time, and so I didn't train at all for a while, and then I got into the edit, and then I was just there every day, so I didn't train. And then the next job I was playing Gary Kasparov in this thing called Rematch that came out on Disney last year, and so I was just a chessboard, really. So, no, but I don't know what you asked, to be honest. I can't remember. I just when you said that transition, I just thought of Chris.
It was mostly like around the routine of like going between jobs, and I guess that
I think I train the most between jobs though.
Where you're looking for like
it's just because you've got time, and actually I enjoy it, and it gives the day structure. And actually, when you're on a job and filming, you guys, you've been on enough sets, you've got enough actor mates that it's like 12, 14, 15 hour days. And so like if you're in every scene every day, it's fair enough if the part requires you to look a certain way, because then you'll squeeze the session in at lunch, or you'll do the work before and watch what you eat. But really, you don't have time to be training. And you energy wise, you can't anyway. So I've always actually done the majority of my training like when I'm not working, and then when I am working, it's sort of more general.
You mentioned Rematch. Was there like a mental training element of that? Did you actually learn how to play chess? Because to give it context, he was the best chess player in the world, and he played the IBM supercomputer. Right?
Yeah, he was the youngest ever world champion at 1984. He was 22. He became world champion. Was world champion till like 2002, I think, or 2000. So for a long time, and he's considered one of the greats, one of the greatest of all time. And then in '96, IBM built this computer called Deep Blue, and they said that we've built this computer, and it was kind of billed as like the dawn of AI, really. They built this computer, and at that point, a computer had never beaten a grandmaster. So they played a match in Philadelphia, and Gary won, but then they offered him a rematch basically a year later, and said that they would work on the computer and that they were sort of sure that it would beat him. And he was always somebody, it still is, as far as I know, always somebody that really is up for a challenge, and really was always championing the sort of the advancement in sort of AI and technology, and because he knew that ultimately it would make chess players better as well. Being able to play on a chess app ultimately
that's
make
really
it
level,
all the time to high level is obviously going to make people better. So he was kind of up for the challenge. They played again and he lost. Which is a bit of a spoiler, but I think it is history. And he didn't realise how big they were going to make it, and he got to New York, and he was on the front cover of Time magazine. There were billboards with his face, and it was televised. And it was
I guess back then it's a massive thing, isn't it? Because computers, it's like I remember being that age and like there being a computer brought into the house, and you're like, what's that do?
Exactly.
You just didn't really understand
dial-up internet and all that.
Totally.
The size of the computer's absolutely massive.
Huge. Did you actually then learn chess for that?
No,
Did
I'm
you learn
terrible.
how to...
It was. I worked with a chess master in London, and I was studying a lot of how he sat at the board and his posture, and how he. And there's a certain way that if people that play a lot of chess, the way that they capture pieces, the way that they, like anything, it's like looking like you do this a lot every day, and you've done, and you're very good at it. And it was more the sort of acting like you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And then we had to memorize quite a few of his the moves, because all the games that we played were based on real games.
So did you try and like make sure you were doing the actual moves that happened in the real games?
We did.
Yeah.
So all the games that were played, the moves that we made in all of the games, even when we recreated his championship winning game from '84, which was like an episode that went back and saw when he became world champion, it was exactly as it was. And so we had a grandmaster with us, a Hungarian grandmaster, who was advising us.
Yeah.
And he would be on set and he'd have the printouts, but that
I love how your only version...
They remember everything.
Yeah.
It's it blew my mind. I mean, they can remember tens of thousands of positions.
There's a documentary on Netflix that just came out called Queen of Chess,
right?
And it's about the young girl who challenged Gary Kasparov and actually drew with him one time or something, and he'd beaten everyone for like 10 years, and she was famously came out and got him.
It's crazy. I mean, I know. So in answer to your question, I'm not very good, and I didn't get.
I like
better.
that your only experience of chess is reenacting like the best ever.
Well, I mean,
like your only knowledge of the game is like I know how to do this.
Well, what was really interesting is there was a guy that Malcolm Peen, who played Gary years and years ago, and he's an English chess master, not a grandmaster, but a master. There's levels, like qualifications, sort of, but very good nonetheless. He was the British #1 at one point, and he said to me, if you spent a day with me, I could make you better than most amateurs.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, there's little things.
Is it like patterns that you're learning?
I think there's like an obvious thing is, for instance, like you never move initially towards the edge of the board, right? Because then you decrease your options. So you go for the center, and then you've got more. More.
We have a chessboard,
but we
could bring it in here.
You'd beat me. I've never been good at maths or like that sort of logic, right? That sort of logic stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a crazy fact that there are more chess positions on a chessboard than atoms in the universe.
What?
Just because of the different number of
the different
sequences. Because pieces could take away as well. So basically it's like
it's which is basically means
basically
it's infinite.
Nearly infinite.
Yeah, which is. Yeah, it'll take you a while to get your head around that. It took me 5 months of shooting to be like, that fact that you said, it's bullshit, it's gotta be.
I'm going to test it now.
Yeah.
It's interesting, like I read a book a few years ago called Bounce, which is basically like a kind of continuation from there's the 10,000 Hours Malcolm Gladwell thing. And in this book it references there was a guy, the whole thing is basically about proving how there is like, naturally people have talent or a predisposition to certain things, but there's no real indicator that like when you're born you are going to progress to being a certain thing based on something. It's basically like if you practice and you accumulate time doing something, you'll become an expert in it, and you then have the possibility to become. And the examples are like the Williams sisters with tennis, for example, and then there's a guy who decided that all his kids were going to be like grandmasters of chess.
That's the
So
same
there's three
Queen of Chess.
Yes, three
documentary.
sisters.
He just decided that his kids were going to be chess people.
And one after the other, they all got better than the other one because the younger ones were playing with the older ones. But he made like games out of it. It's like he was obsessed. But
you must have to have for that. You must have to have. There is some genetic inheritance there, right? Like in terms of.
But basically, in the book,
works.
it's basically saying like he created an environment from the earliest possible age where his kids were doing certain things.
They played chess
like
3 different tutors a day.
It was mad. Like, it was insane. But it like took over their lives, and like it depends what way you want to look at it. Like, it obviously worked out well for them. They did really well and made a career out of it. But it's like
they've got no social skills whatsoever.
It'd be like me getting home and then being like, right, to my son who's 4, this is what you're going to do to do this. Well, and it's like completely kind of taking away what do you want to do.
Yeah. The youngest grandmaster ever. So to be a grandmaster, you have to get it's a certain score that you have to reach.
Right, 2,500 points.
Exactly, yeah. And the youngest is a 3-year-old Indian boy of this is like 6 months ago I read that.
Mad.
Bless him.
3 years old.
I mean, he hasn't wasted his life. He's only been alive for 3 years.
To put into context what my son's doing, last night as I was tucking him into bed, he looked me in the eye and did a fart. And I was and then went like, and I was like, "We've practiced this."
You're like tomorrow.
He's a product of what I've been doing.
Tomorrow we're getting him a chessboard.
Tomorrow, different type of fart.
He would just be chucking them about, throwing them everywhere.
Yeah. Well, that's what they should be doing.
He's having a good time. We don't need to force that upon him. We've talked about some sporting successes briefly there, and then a thing that we got involved with, which was a bit of fun, was when yourself, whether or not this is a sporting success, I don't know.
I mean, it's a success for Christian, maybe not for the whole.
There was you, Joe Cole,
your
brother Alex, and a few others one day decided you're going to ride the length of the country.
Yeah, Britain, yeah.
And I think it's probably fair to say you were thoroughly underprepared. By the time you...
How very dare you?
I wasn't. By the time you all came knocking on our door, it was literally like, right...
Who's got injury?
So there's like a little crew of you came in, you're all just like, can't move.
Yeah, no, me and Joe and my brother, me and my brother's very naturally very fit, and we sort of kept like a good level of base fitness, and then we did do quite a bit of cycling, and Joe and I would like go on these cycles, around Surrey and Kent, and we did do a bit of training, but my other best pal Johnny, he didn't train. He hardly trained at all, and it was. We were doing 100 miles a day. Pretty much.
It's a lot. It was a lot
for 8-9 days, and
it was a charity ride, right?
Yeah, it was a children's charity based in Brixton that Joe hooked us up with, and we raised like 60 grand for them. I think it was great, and it was right at the end of the first sort of big COVID thing, end of 2020. And it was to this day, it's one of the best things I've ever done. Yeah. It was incredible.
How was it as a process of like getting started? Because obviously if you go out, I remember you and Joe were doing the big rides and we kind of like seeing it on Strava and stuff, and we were helping you a bit with the recovery and a few little niggles, and then a little bit of support kind of in the build up to it. But how was it when you went from doing those big rides at a weekend, let's say, and then all of a sudden you go the next day and the next day and the next day? It's like, is there a point where your body starts to just break down a little bit?
Yeah, totally. And I won't say who, but 2 of the group didn't finish it.
I remember this.
One of our pals spent half the time in the van because it got too much, and then I think Johnny, I've said his name, I should say the other person's name. I haven't said his second name.
We could beef it.
Anyway, he missed like, I don't know, 100k in total, but considering he trained the least, he did very well. But there was the last bit of training we did a couple of weeks before we started, was the guy that we had sort of helping us out, someone that Joe had figured out. He said, you need to do 3 consecutive 100-mile days.
Yeah.
So we went to my brother's house in Kent, and we all stayed there, and we did 3 consecutive days, 100 miles, and 2 out of the 8 of us finished it, and we were like, what?
And that was your last.
we gonna
We
do?
were
was your
like,
last
what the
prep
fuck?
before going.
Like my pal hurt his knee, someone's like bike broke, they hurt their back, like someone was too knackered. It was, and we were just like,
Shit.
wait, we actually have trained a
Like
little
10 times.
yeah, and we've got to do it for 9 days, 8 days. I think 9 days we did it in. It's a great way of seeing the country. Though. It really is. But it really
It's
was
only
one of the
redeeming
best
feature.
things I've ever done, and it was like you're just with your pals doing it, and we were lucky. We had the support vehicle, and we actually had a crew filming it, and so we have a video somewhere. It's just as a
Were there
keepsake,
days
but-
where like it becomes like entirely mind over matter,
The-
where you just have to know you can do
You
it
can
if you
do it,
keep
yeah.
going,
The-
because it's like taking the next pedal or whatever. It just feels like you can't.
I think if you're not fit enough, it gets progressively harder. I think if you are fit enough, the first couple of days are the hardest.
The worst.
and then you settle into
And
it
then
a
you
little
settle into it, and you become fitter as you ride,
Yeah.
because you're doing 1,000 miles. So like by halfway through, you're at your peak, really. You know.
Also, you've done like a lot of things. It's like not knowing the end of the tunnel is the worst bit, right?
Yeah.
So like, if 3 days of like, oh, I reached the end of the tunnel
Yeah.
and I didn't die, I didn't break down.
bit. Yeah.
Like, okay, now the mental side of it becomes easier
Yeah.
because you're like 3/4 of the way in. You're like, oh, I know what I've got left to do that.
And you date your days. You become used to the structure of the day. So you do. You know, we were 12 hours a day on the bike, pretty much. But you know when you're stopping for a tea break. You know, mid-morning snack, coffee, whatever. You know when
Sounds
lunch
really
is.
pleasant.
Yeah. we were riding through some really quaint little villages, honestly, swearing at each other.
Yeah.
You fucking cut me up. No, but and then when we would have lunch, and so you had these markers. There was one day that we were coming into Scotland, and a friend of ours, his parents have a hotel just in Gretna, actually, and we were staying in their hotel, and it was the longest day. It was a 200-kilometer day.
Oof.
And when we got there, it was pitch black, and we were literally in bits. I mean,
Yeah.
we were. It was almost like a sort of those two brothers from Leeds that did.
The Brownlees,
Yeah,
where
the
the one of
Brownlees,
them's
when the-
completely gone. and
It
you
was
have to pick
it was
him up
like
and
a
carry
bike
him.
version of that. Like we
Mental.
were like wobbling all over, could barely stand. And what was incredible as well is just talking about, circling back to food, protein and stuff. We what we were eating every day was kind of crazy.
Well, you need a crazy amount of calories. It's like you can be into like 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 calories a day.
Easily. And we would eat. Sometimes we would eat 2 meals in the evening. So we particularly that night when we were at the hotel, we would. They were shocked by how much we were
Was
ordering.
it fried chicken in the bath to just top it up? Perfect opportunity.
we were eating a lot, but as you guys know, with stuff like that, you can never let yourself feel hungry or thirsty, right? So you've always got to be.
Yeah, you've almost lost.
Top
The
Hang
other
on.
thing was
Yeah,
when
yeah.
it's an endurance-based thing, it's managing your salt intake as well.
Right.
Because you find people that just drink loads and loads of water, and
Yeah.
because you're sweating out all the salt, it's
Yeah.
like people hear about
don't retain
electrolytes but
more.
don't necessarily know what they actually
Yeah.
are. And you see often cyclists and runners and people have like 2 bottles.
Yeah.
So you have the one that you just kind of sip from, which
Right.
is like your electrolytes, just
Yeah.
restoring the salt that you're
Yeah.
getting rid of. Because without it, that's when like. Did you have any days where it was like really bad cramp and you just kind of lock up? Because that's really common in cycling.
Yeah,
where
yeah. I did definitely.
quads just go like bang.
The Cairngorms. That was the. So there's
Which are massive mountains in Scotland. for
Yeah.
anyone
So
doesn't know.
that was really. That was actually a really tough day, and that was like day 7. But then there's the second day or the third day. Devon is really tough.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Cheddar Gorge and all that sort of area really tough.
Were you
But
going
then
from north to south? Or was it
South
opposite?
to north.
south to north? I think you do that because I don't know if you do that because it's slightly easier.
In my head,
don't
I
know.
always just think of the entire country being from
Downhill.
south to north is uphill.
Yeah.
We always do a section called Humbled in Hollywood, which is basically... I mean, you've described a lot of stuff in this chat that kind of shows the harder side of it as well, because often from the outside, if there's people that see on Instagram or watch the films that you've done on the TV shows, it's
Yeah.
like,
They don't expect fried chicken in the bath.
yeah, like the
Yeah.
hard work that goes in and the opportunities for like kind of humbling or embarrassments and that kind of thing. You kind of just see the presented version of a project, and everything looks like perfect and easy and smooth all the time. So it's like a chance for people to kind of share a story about that side of stuff. But
I'm
anything
just thinking
where you
of
have
myself in a bath eating fried chicken now, and how I just keep like fixating on what a grim image that is.
I don't know. It depends. If you have a smile on your face, then it's quite,
it was
quite
it
a jolly
was
little
good at
image,
the
I'd say.
time. It was good at the time. Anyway, sorry, carry on.
But yeah, if you have any stories from throughout your career where there's been a moment, maybe you've had a bit of a humbling or an embarrassing
Sometimes
moment
in a
that's
gym,
crashed you back down
sometimes
to
in
earth.
an audition or on set.
Well, there's been a few things that probably not worth repeating, but then the one that's related to what you brought up earlier, the MMA stuff, and so I was training with you guys for that, and I was in really good shape, and I was felt strong and full of testosterone probably. And I remember, so it was kind of two parts to this. I got onto set and I was hitting a heavy bag, which so I had to hit this heavy bag in this shot, and I only had 2-ounce gloves on, and because I was the day sort of ran away with itself, and I was kind of stressed, and I'd been doing all these scenes and racing against the clock and stuff. I remember just whacking this bag without really warming up my wrists, and with 2-ounce gloves and heavy bags. I'm at 80 kilos, so it's and I haven't boxed enough to have super strong wrists to be able to withstand like just whacking a heavy bag like repeatedly.
And then in a film set where you're doing loads of takes, I imagine you kind of repeat,
loads of takes,
repeat.
And anyway, I've had since then, I've had trouble with my wrist ever since. It's never every winter it starts to ache here, and anyway, so I'd done that, right? This was like a sort of on shooting. I'd done that, and I was like, oh right, that was a real mistake. And then a week later, we were shooting, and I was doing this scene, and I punched a marble table in with the same, just sort of in the heat of the moment. The thing is, I'm
not something that you'd advise anybody to do.
I have this. It maybe sounds quite cringeworthy, but I do sort of commit fully to things, and then sometimes at my detriment, where I'm like, just don't do that. You don't need to do that.
So you're so in character, you just go.
Well, I just kind of. It was just like, I don't know. I had an argument with Kate Bosworth's character, and she walks out of the room, and I just. And it wasn't planned. I just impulsively punched the table in front of me, the kitchen surface, and it was marble. And I remember thinking, "Fuck, don't do that again. That really hurt." And then the line producer came on set, and she was like, "Guys, you got one more take. I'm shutting you down. You're over now. We're running over and whatever." And I remember being so fucking annoyed that we only had one more take, and I'd been waiting around to do this scene, and everything was rushed, and I was so frustrated. We do another take. And I fucking punched the marble table again. But at that time, it was like more...
That was real.
It was like annoyance from... But again, I just wasn't really thinking. It sort of... Maybe it was like memory from the last time. I don't know. But I did it again. And I must have done it even harder. But I didn't want to... Because I knew it was the last take, I didn't want to ruin the take. And so I just... I'd done it. I don't want to go off the mic, but I just put my head in my hand on top of the counter until they said cut. And then as soon as they said cut, I was like, guys, I need to go to hospital.
Broke my
Did
hand.
you break it?
I broke my hand.
Fuck
Right? And it was really... I'd never broken a bone in my body until then, but I knew instantly that I'd broken my hand. And so I go to hospital, and they put a cast on it, and then next day I'm on set doing scenes with like running through woods with like trying to mask a cast on my hand. Anyway,
What is this show? Can we see it?
Yeah,
It's
called The Art of More. It was really.
I want to see you sprinting, hiding your hand behind your back.
Me, Dennis Quaid, Kate Bosworth, Kerry Elwes. It was all right, and I think it was on Sony in America, Sony Crackle, and then it was, I don't know where it came out here. I think it was on Sky at some point. Anyway, a doctor comes to set, and he'd seen the X-ray, and he said, "I've got some sort of bad news. I'm going to have to re-break your hand because it's not in the right place." He said, "You can either come into the hospital or we can do it here."
This guy sounds mad.
And so I was like,
Did you trust this man?
I was.
Can you just punch this marble table for me?
No,
Just
but I was
did it in
like,
different
what? I
angles.
was like, what? Is there a difference in the sort of process? And he was like, no, it's just whether you would rather be in a hospital,
So he's just manipulating
They pull your finger
into
out.
a straighter line.
So
basically.
we go into the AD, the assistant director's trailer, and he brings the medic from offset to hold me down, right? So the medic is pinning me down.
It's like something out of a war film.
Right, and he gave me a huge injection to help the numbing, but I swear that didn't do anything.
When pain is at a certain level, it's like
it
maybe like takes the edge off it.
There was a pillow that I cried into while they were doing, and the guy put all his weight and then just cracked it again, and it was awful. So that was a very humbling moment, because I think there is this sort of thing that you think as an actor sometimes when you're certainly when you're a bit younger, that you're kind of in this really protected environment, right? And you can't hurt yourself. You can't, it's like
if you punch a marble table.
Yeah, I mean, you did it twice as well. We always round out the episode with kind of catching up with what's going on for you. You mentioned you were Are you working on something at the moment? Something in development now?
Yeah. Yes.
So what's coming up next? Basically,
acting wise, I'm doing a film in the summer. They're just getting that together now, called We Go Back, which is sort of set in the art world in London in '96. Kind of a mad film which starts in London and ends on this island in Indonesia. It's crazy. So that's that.
Sounds
and
like fun
then
to shoot.
and then I'm developing a second feature, with Stigma Films, which is so when I was putting together my Embers, and I was telling you I was in Cincinnati, trying to lose all that weight. When I sort of feeling like Embers was falling apart, and I had this idea, and I started writing this film, and so the film that I'm sort of doing next is that I started writing it 6 years ago. So yeah,
it just shows like the length of time it takes for these things.
Well, that's gone on.
Like,
it's gone very. Originally it was set up in America and set in America, and I had it optioned to a company out there, and then I had this idea to set it in England, and it's gone through this huge rewrite, and then I finally got a producer here, and we're moving that along. Just got a casting director, and so it's
awesome.
It's a long process, as you guys know, but that's what I'm working on.
A lot of stuff coming up ahead then.
Very good.
Nice. Well, we'll look forward to seeing those things when they
Thanks,
when
guys.
they make it out.
This has
Also,
been a great
we didn't
old.
mention it, but people should watch Plain Clothes as well.
Oh yeah,
which is a very good film.
yeah,
with Russell
nice,
Tovey.
yeah.
We were too busy talking.
Do you guys
about
work with Russell?
No.
He's great. He's very into health and fitness.
He is.
Yes,
And then
That's it.
that's it.
We're
Thanks,
done.
guys. This has been great.
Thanks so much for coming on.
Good old
Mate,
chat.
so
Just a nice old chat, isn't it? Really?